So talking about removing fundamental rights because you cannot make and communicate a decision, either regarding healthcare or financials. How does one determine that this is really an inability to make decisions and communicate them versus as our parents age, perhaps not making the wisest decisions?
Sure, that can be a very hard thing to determine. And the court-appointed evaluator's report is one of the big pieces of information, of evidence that's used to determine this. As a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Georgia, I'm able to complete these evaluations. And I often do what I call a biopsychosocial assessment. So bio being the medical, psycho being psychological, social being family systems, also including legal things, like Diane said, who do they have as their healthcare power of attorney, or any agents under any kind of power of attorney, and how do they take care of their needs. And a lot of the cases that I get asked to evaluate on include things like dementia, or more rarely mental health issues, maybe traumatic brain injury. And when I'm evaluating for someone on these things, of course, we're looking at memory, we're looking at cognitive functioning. And really, one of the biggest things I see is what's called impairment in executive functioning. So that is the inability to plan or do, quote, higher order level thinking. The classic test that people know about is to draw a clock. And you think, well, everybody sees a clock. That seems relatively straightforward. Although in 20 years, we might have to do something different because everything's digital now. But the understanding the relationship of, number one, the image, number two, the numbers on the image, and then three, the fact that the longhand and the shorthand are pointing to different numbers. All of this, it requires executive functioning to be able to put that information together and make sense of it. And that's just one example of what we look at. But when the psychological evaluation is completed, that's one of the pieces that we take into consideration. And also insight. Unfortunately, with illnesses such as dementia, one of the cornerstones in dementia, they have a special fancy word for it called anosognosia, where the person with the illness doesn't even acknowledge that they have it. And that's often where the danger part comes in, the inability to know what your needs are, to express them, and to manage any kind of needs. If you think it's totally fine to walk down the street at 3 a.m. to get your dog food, then and no one else can tell you otherwise, that's one of the things that we'll see, is that impairment in insight as well.